You just don't want, them to get away with it. You want them to know that there's consequences behind things that's doing wrong. Tell my kids that, all the trouble I got into when I was younger, I told my kids that there was consequences behind that.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Life of Dad Show. Here in the Life of Dad Show, we talk with athletes, actors, entrepreneurs, CEOs, musicians, entertainers who've all made a name for themselves, but the one thing that is most important to them is being a dad. For this edition of the Life of Dad Show Rewind, I'm taking you back to the time that I interviewed Donald Driver. This is episode 92 of the Life of Dad Show. We talk about his children's book series, we talk about football, we talk about fatherhood. It's such an honor to chat with Donald. Big fan of his work, both on and off the field. Let's get into it. Here's my interview with Donald Driver. Enjoy. Hey everybody, it's Art Eddy for the Life of Dad Show and On the Line. I'm so happy to have former Green Bay Packers great Donald Driver on the line. Thanks for taking the time today, Donald. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Art. Thanks for having me, man. This is an honor.
Oh, it's an honor right back here, man. And before we get into your foundation and fatherhood and the great line of children's books you have, obviously as a football fan, I want to talk a little bit about football. And people, they know your story about getting drafted in the late rounds. Some people say, I'm just going to, it creates a chip on the shoulder. Do you feel like that was something for you, like that was a factor to make sure that you kind of proved to other teams that passed up on you that they made the wrong choice?
In 1999 when I got drafted, that's the first thing I did. Everyone I waited, and teams were telling me that they were going to think about drafting me the first day, and then some said, hey, we'll draft you the second day, but you shouldn't go no later than the fourth round. And so, you think all these teams that's calling that they're going to draft you, and then that day comes where you sit there during the draft, and you're sitting at home with your family, and you're thinking, okay, the first day goes by, and you don't get picked up, and then the next day the fourth round hits, and you don't get picked up again. You think that, basically your career is over.
Yeah.
Now you have to go find a normal job. So I had that chip on my shoulder, and then when the Green Bay Packers called me in the seventh round after, 32 receivers got taken before me, I just wanted to prove to the league that, a lot of the teams made the wrong choice. They should have drafted me earlier, but the Green Bay Packers took a chance on me, and I believe that, that's why I was able to retire, with them and give them that legacy instead of, another team.
Nice, man. And for you, can you kind of take me back to your memory? I mean, maybe not the preseason, but your first real official NFL game. What were your emotions and memories like from that one?
Wow. My first memory of actually knowing that I've made it to the NFL was our first family night scrimmage in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Okay.
I remember Brett sitting down with me telling me, this is not Alcorn State University where you have only 20,000 people. It's going to be about 60,000 people in these stands. And I remember walking out of that tunnel just for the, family night scrimmage, offense versus defense, and there was 57,000 people in the stands yelling and screaming. And from there, I was just going nuts. I was like, wow. And then I remember me and Brett walking out of the tunnel together, and he looked at me, he said, hey, Drive, welcome to the NFL. And I remember after that, and it was, and I had an amazing practice that week because I caught a lot of great balls, and I think from there that solidified my opportunity to make the Green Bay Packers roster.
Oh, I love that story, man. Thanks for sharing that. And as fans of the game, Lambeau Field has got to be one of the most iconic stadiums to play in of all sports, and not just football. But for you as a player, what did Lambeau Field mean to you?
It means everything. I have to say that. When people ask me, if you never had the chance to experience Lambeau, you want to experience it your first time. I don't care if it's cold game or a hot game. You want to be there. You want to experience the atmosphere. And the fans have been great, throughout my whole entire career. They have proved to me that they have showed their loyalty to me. So, the thing for me was to show my loyalty back to them. And they've been supportive through my charity, through my family, to be the person that I am today. I've always said this, is that my fans have put me on the pedestal. It wasn't me playing that put myself on the pedestal. They put me on the pedestal. And when they put you on the pedestal, you have to always remember that you're no better than they are.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And one of the cool things about, of course, Lambeau Field is the Lambeau Leap. I actually talked to Leroy Butler, who, quote unquote, invented the leap. And he was talking about who he thought did the best Lambeau Leap. So for you, who does the best Lambeau Leap?
I think a lot of people have given me that title. A lot of people have given me the title, said I've done the best Lambeau Leap because, sometimes I remember one time we was playing the Detroit Lions at home, and I scored a 67-yard touchdown, and I ran, and I looked up, and I saw the Detroit Lions fans, and when I jumped up, they was trying to, catch me. So I jumped up and jumped back down, and then I just took two other steps and jumped back forward, back up in the Packer fans' hands, and then I stuck my tongue out at the Detroit Lions fans. So, It was a great time. It was amazing. But the thing is that when I first scored my first touchdown, I had no clue that everybody, should do the Lambeau leap. I thought it was just Leroy Butler's thing, so I never wanted to step on his toes. So I never did it when I first scored my first touchdown in Lambeau. And I remember getting to the sideline, and so many guys gave me grief, saying, "Drop the next time you score, you better Lambeau leap." And since then, every time I score, I Lambeau leap.
Nice, man. These are great stories. For you, what was the toughest part about playing in the NFL?
And for me, it was just the speed of the game. Coming from Alcorn State and just coming from college, it's a different atmosphere. The speed of the game is so much faster. So I wanted to make sure that, when I got there, I learned. And I sat back and just kind of learned from all the veteran guys and took for what they said. They said, "Drive, you have to stay focused and you make sure that you make every play count because the opportunities are slim. In college, you can always make it up. In the NFL, it's hard to do." So they taught me that, and I was able to, use that year after year.
A couple more football questions. Which safety or quarterback challenged you the most, and did you love to play against a certain team or a certain player?
I will say this, is that I played against a lot of great corners in my time.
Yeah.
Antonio Winfield, Champ Bailey, Deion Sanders, Kevin Smith. I mean, the list goes on and on. D'Angelo Hall. I mean, Charles Woodson. I mean, Al Harris, Mike McKenzie. I mean, that list continues to go. Every week I stepped on the field, I knew that I had to play my best game.
Yeah.
Regardless of, and the good thing about it is I was able to play against some great corners that I played with for many years. I mean, Mike McKenzie was there before he went to New Orleans. Charles Woodson was Oakland before he came to Green Bay.
Yep.
Al Harris was in Philly before he came to Green Bay. So it was just one of those things that I played against those guys. So I kind of knew those guys knew me. But every day at practice, and if I knew that I could beat them, then I knew that I was going to have a great game. And there was no one else out there that was tough enough to stop me. And that's the way I played the game. I knew if I could beat my guys one-on-one in practice every day, and those guys was, it was a battle between us, I knew that when I got on the field, that I was going to have to step my game up just a little bit more. And I did every week.
Nice, man. Yeah, well said. And my last question before we get into your foundation and fatherhood, I'm guessing the answer is probably going to be the Super Bowl title, but is that the one moment that, sticks out in your career the most?
I would have to say that I have so many moments that I will always cherish. The Super Bowl, will be a moment that I think every NFL player wants to reach. That's the greatest milestone for us, is to win that Super Bowl and have that Super Bowl ring on our fingers that we can always cherish forever. But when I became the all-time faculty receiver in franchise history, that solidified my legacy for Green Bay. So many great players, James Lofton, Don Hudson. I mean, all those great players, Sterling Sharp, Antonio Freeman, Robert Brooks, all those great players played before me. And for me to be on the top of that list now, that stands the test of time. And I know one day some player will come in and maybe break my record, and I hope it never gets broken. I hope it stays there forever. But I think that's the same thing that Sterling thought, that, and James Lawson thought. Those guys hope that their record never be broken. And some, they stood for almost, 30, 40 years. But Look what happened now. A guy steps in and he breaks those records. And so you just never know. I mean, the way the game is played now, those records will be broken. But those are the things that I know I would cherish: the record breaking, the Super Bowl, and the fans. I think that's the main thing.
Nice. Two things I just kind of want to touch upon that. One, I love your honesty about, I hope no one breaks my record. Because when people are like, "Oh, I can't wait," I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah, right. No, I don't want no one to break mine. I can be honest about that one.
And also, too, you probably get this a lot, especially with the many catches and touchdowns and stuff like that. I personally have to thank you because you helped me win a couple of years in my fantasy football league, some championships due to you. Due to your work. So thanks.
You are more welcome. You are more than welcome. Thank you.
And let's talk about your great foundation, the Donald Driver Foundation. Tell me about the great work that you and the great folks at the foundation do, especially I was kind of reading up on the Driven to Achieve Awards. What's that about?
Yeah. We started a foundation back in 2001 where we wanted to give families an opportunity to have a better life. So we created the Donald Driver Foundation that helps families that's in homeless shelters transition from homeless shelters to apartment houses, where we pay subsidized rent for them for 6 months to a year. We also came out with a computer scholarship as well as an academic scholarship, where we give kids that's going to 2 or 4 year college either a $1,000 scholarship, or we give them a computer scholarship. But they must maintain a 3.0 GPA, and they must do community service. And then we started a program called Blessed in the Backpack. It's a huge, we was glad that they allowed us to be on board with them. It's a program that any kid that's on federal government lunch, we give them opportunity to have food to eat on weekends. And we have 7 schools that we have, we supply with that, a 3-year commitment. It only takes $80 to feed a child for an entire school year. So we are blessed to be helped over 1,000 kids. And then we just launched the Driven to Achieve Awards. The Driven to Achieve Awards was something that I came up with to give so many people an opportunity. So many people doing great things in this world that don't get recognized for what they do. What I want to do is I want to take the shine off myself a while and put the shine on those great people. So we honored 8 great recipients to receive that award this year on March 29th. And we had 6 local winners from Wisconsin and 2 national winners. And our 2 national winners was Gladys Knight and Anthony Robles, the Arizona State wrestler.
Nice.
So and it shows you that, you know, when you continue to do great things in the community, people support you. And I've had so much love and so much support throughout this all that, you know, I could not have done it without the fans and all my sponsors.
I love what you're doing, and so many. I mean, you guys are doing so many different things, and all of them are great. I love the fact that you kind of, if you're going to help out someone out, they got to kind of maintain a GPA because you want them to be driven and making sure that they're doing the most they can with what you guys are giving them. So I love that aspect.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, you know, I tell my kids this all the time, is that if you want to be successful in life, you got to be willing to do 2 things. Decide what you want to do and then do it. You know, don't decide and not do it. Decide what you want to do and you do it, because that's the only way you're going to be successful. And you have to be a leader. You want to be a leader and you want to, you know, you want to be successful and you want to have greatness. I tell people all, you can't have one without the other. When you have greatness, you have success. When you have success, you have greatness. And that's kind of how it works hand in hand. So that's what I instill in my kids every single day, that you want to be great in life and you got to be willing to push yourself to the limit.
Nice. And I guess you're a little bit psychic too, because that was my next question about what are some of the morals and values that you instill in your children. So we're good on that one. Let's move on to one of the things I kind of like to ask dads out there is that I know I have 2 kids, one's 6 and one's 3. My youngest is kind of a button pusher in my family. Always called me, I was the youngest in the family, and they always said I used to push buttons. So for you, do you see some traits in your kids that, you know, were very reminiscent when you were a kid?
You know, I look at all 3 of my kids. Christian, he's 10, Christina's 8, and Charity's 2. And, you know, they always say they're going to push the buttons. They're going to always push those buttons the same way, you know, the same way you push your mom and I pushed my mom when we was growing up. We push those buttons until mom let the rules be known that, look, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. So my kids know that they can only push so far before my wife say, and, you know, that the rod has to come out, you know. So we've always let our kids, you know, we try not to let them get away with murder. But we do have that thing where we want to sit down and say, okay, why did you do that? We want to talk to you. Then they can understand after they talk to us why we're spanking them, you know. So yeah. It's one of those things. But you see it in your kids. You see exactly what you did as a kid. You say, you know, somebody did that same thing, and then sometimes you sit back and you say, you know, I understand why he did it. Yeah, I do understand. But then you say, should I still spank them? You know, you just don't want, you know, them to get away with it. You want them to know that there's consequences behind things that's doing wrong. Yeah. You know, I tell my kids that, you know, all the trouble I got into when I was younger, you know, I told my kids that there was consequences behind that, you know, and if you want to say the same consequences, then I'll tell you what you can do I'll tell you what happens when you do it the wrong way. And for me, my kids have, you know, they are very nervous about, you know, all the things that I've done. They said, Daddy, why you do that? And I explained to them that, you know, Daddy was young and stupid, you know, but now Daddy understands that. So I instill in my kids, and I tell people all the time, tell your kids what you have done. Don't worry about your kids judging you. You tell them what you've done so they can understand that if they do it, there's consequences behind it. Yeah. You know, so that's what I instill in my kids. I tell my kids that, Daddy sold drugs, Daddy stole cars, Daddy robbed. Yes, Daddy did it all. But Daddy never got caught. God gave me a second chance in life, you know, and that's what I try to instill. Like, God gave me a second chance, but God may not give you one, you know. So I instill in them that, look, let me tell you the consequences behind doing the wrong things. And they know now. And I tell them, my mom told me, there's only 2 things about doing it the wrong way. You can either end up dead or you end up in jail. But you know something, if you do it the right way, you're going to end up successful. And so, you know, the good thing about it is I was able to change my life around. I met a beautiful woman in college that helped me change my life around. And to this day, we've been married 14 years, got 3 beautiful kids, and it just seems to continue to grow. And I think for us, this is having, you know, God in our life and making sure that that's our first priority, then, you know, we continue to grow.
I totally agree on the whole honesty factor with your kids. If they ask me a question, as tough as it might be to answer it and just be truthful, I think they do it. Because if you lie to them and they kind of find out, wait, you said this, but you actually did this, you lied to me, and then the whole trust factor goes out the window. So I totally get that.
Yeah. Because, you know, I think, you know, the thing, Art, is that I've always learned that if you're honest with your kid and you're being honest with them, regardless of what you've done in the past, it's okay for your kids to judge you because your kids will say, well, you know, my mom did that. And then you're going to be like, well, I know the consequences behind that. You know, I tell my daughters, and, you know, I tell my son and my daughters now, I'm like, look, you're young, but my 10-year-old now, he's starting to understand what girls are all about. So I have to, you know, and it's one of those things that you know, either you have to talk with him when he turns 13, or you have to talk with him now, you know. And I feel like, you know, for me, if he's starting to understand what a woman looks like and what, you know, he knows what a woman looks like, but understand the body features of a woman, I'm starting to tell him, like, okay, you can't do this. Like, you can't grab a little girl. You can't touch her on her butt, or you can't. And he starts to understand that because there's consequences behind that, you know.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, Daddy, okay, thank you. Because if you never tell your child, the child never understands. So when they commit that, you go, you should have known better. But why you never told them?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you have to be open to your kids, because if they feel like you're open, they can always come to you. My daughters, I think for me that's it. My wife said this, and I respect her for it. She said, you can only teach Christian how to be a man, but I can teach him how to love a woman. And I said, you know something? I said, baby, you know something? I love that quote, but that goes hand in hand, because if he sees me love his mom, he's going to love his wife when he gets married. You know, if my daughters see their mom treat me with respect and I love their mom, they're going to find a man. My daughter's going to find a man that loves them and love them more than anyone else could ever love them. You know, so that's kind of what we're big and strong on, that, you know, we want to make sure that our kids see the examples in our house, that they can go out there and find good men and women. You know, someone will always be able to tell my kids that their dad was a great football player, but no one can tell my kids that their dad was a great father and a great husband. I can only do that, and that's what I tell my wife. And she can only be the mom and the wife that she needs to be. But she, you know, someone will always be able to tell our kids that your dad was an amazing football player, but no one can tell my kids that I was a great husband and great father. I can only do that to my kids.
Well said, man. The kids, especially at your kid's age and my kid's age, I feel like they're sponges and they soak everything. Even though you think they're not watching, they are watching, man.
Yes, they are. Yes, they. And when you think they're not listening, they're listening.
Yeah. 2 more questions. Describe the perfect family vacation.
Perfect family vacation. I would have to say just quality time together.
Nice.
That's the biggest thing. It's not really taking a trip to like the Bahamas or Hawaii or going to Florida or going to. I think it's just sitting at home, watching a movie, talking, playing board games, just getting interactive with each other. Because sometimes when you go on these trips, you want to do so many other things. You want to go hiking. You want to you go to Florida, LA, you want to go to Disney. You want to jump on all those different rides.
Yeah.
But the thing is when you're at home, you get an opportunity to be with your family. You get to interact with your family. So we, you know, at our house on Fridays, we have family night, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've always said. On Friday nights, we have dedicated that's our night. That's a family. You know, sometimes our kids have parties that they want to go to. We say, okay, you can go this weekend, but next weekend we're family night. We're at home. We're watching a movie. We're playing board games. We're interacting with each other, because that's the time when we get to sit back with our daughters and our son. What happened at school? What's going on? How you guys feel? Anything happened? You know, tell us a story. And they open up with that. And you know, and then, you know, the thing is that that's your quality time together. That's a family vacation for me.
Yeah, I love that, man. Like my wife and I always say, like, what was the best part of your day with our kids at dinner table? And you've written 3 children books already, and another one's scheduled to come out this year. Tell us a little bit about the one that's going to be coming up and what inspired you to write these books.
What inspired me to write the books was me telling stories to my son when he was, you know, he was 2 years old. You know, he was laying in the bed and he kept asking the question, like, Daddy, did you play football? Daddy, did you play sports? And I kept saying, you know, your daddy plays football for a living. And he's like, oh, you do, huh, Daddy? You know, at 2 years old, they really don't understand that you play in the National Football League. And so I wanted to let him understand that, you know, son, let me explain something to you. And I started to tell him the stories about everyone kept telling me I was too small to play football. I was too small. You know, choose another sport. So you're going to get hurt. And I kept telling him this little story about me. And then one of my good friends said, you know something, you need to start writing children's books. Because every kid in the world is going through that. Either their mom is telling them, or their teacher's telling them, or a friend is telling them, or their own siblings are telling them. So you need to put that in the book so a kid can understand that you can make the team. If you believe that you can accomplish anything in life, all you got to do is believe in it. And that's why I created Quickie Makes Team, is that Quickie was a kid that no one believed in that he can play football. But he believed. So he tried out for the team, he made it, and he went out there, and at the end of the game, he wins the game. He wins the championship game for his team. So that's the first book. The second book was Quickie Handles a Loss. You know, regardless of what you may face in life, losing a job, failing a test, losing a loved one in your life, do not let that dictate how you live your life. Continue to strive and move forward, because it only gets better. It doesn't get worse. And then I came out with Quickie Goes to the Big Game. As an NFL player, the greatest milestone is to make it to the National Football League and make it to the Super Bowl. And Quickie gets the opportunity to go somewhere that his dad had been dreaming of for a long, long time, and that's the Super Bowl. So, that story is whatever you dream of, continue to dream, because your dream will come true. I say this because everybody always says, dreams come true if you put the effort into it. And that's what it's all about. So now the new book is Quickie Handles the Bully. Everybody out there is facing some challenges. If it's a kid getting bullied at school, or it's an employee getting bullied by his boss at work, every single person is having that issue. My kids haven't got bullied, and maybe they're not getting bullied because their dad plays in, was an NFL player. But as they get older, some kids is not going to care about that their dad was an NFL player. They may bully them, Yeah. But my kids, I want my kids to understand that it's not okay to get bullied, And how do I protect them from that is by putting it in this book that you hurt bullies with kindness. You don't have to fight back unless he puts his hands on you or she puts her hands on you. You have to defend yourself. The words don't hurt you, and that's what I want these people to understand, that as many words that, this little kid or these kids will say to Quickie in the next book, Quickie's not going to take, he's going to listen, and he's going to just move along. And that's what I want to show kids, that sometimes you don't have to take it to the next level where, I got to do this, or I get bullied. And that's why we have had so many kids, have shootings at school, because these kids have been bullied down the road.
Yeah.
So they come back and say, well, I'm going to take it out on everybody because, you might not bully me, but, I have that anger, So I want to make sure that kids understand that if you're bullied, let me show you how to get out of it without being forceful. And that's why I want to create this book, is that it can be a conversation, because the bully will turn around and become your best friend, but you have to show how. And that's what I'm going to show in the next book. I can't tell you all of it because I don't want to give it away, but I think that's the thing that we all have to instill, regardless of, like I said, if it's a kid or a person get bullied at a job. I mean, I have had adults buy my book because they understand the message. And I always write a message at the back of the book for every person that buys the book. I don't care if you're a child or adult. And they have loved it. And then most of the adults have said, something, Don, I love your letters that you write in the back, because you open up and you tell the truth.
I think what you said recently, just about the book, and it starts a conversation. I think when I read with my kids, if they don't understand or if they want to learn more about the message, we talk about it, and I think that sinks in more. So, Donald, right. I know you got a lot of things going on right now. Thanks so much for taking the time. Continued success with everything you're doing with the foundation, the books, and it was a pleasure to chat with you, man.
Thank you, but make sure to tell everyone to go get my memoir. It's called Driven. It's one of the best books in the world. It's my life story, telling the story of my childhood from, and the story is from homeless to hero, my journey on and off Lambeau Field. So it's a great book. I think a lot of people have loved it. The good thing about it, I have to, pat myself on the back, but I think I wrote a great book, and it was great. But I think the fans, the supporters throughout the world has been very supportive, and it's a New York Times bestseller, and I can't give all myself the credit. I have to give it to all the people out there that's supported me throughout the years.
Yeah, we'll definitely put links for the children's books and, of course, Driven as well. Donald, thanks so much, man, and thanks for taking the time and continued success with everything you're doing.
No problem.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. No problem. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Life of Dad Show. You know where to find us, lifeofdad.com, and on Twitter and Facebook.